Have you ever wondered how serious collectors find great deals over and over and over again? Have you even come to the thought that maybe you're being lied to about the prices that some people are claiming that they're paying for these amazing deals that they're getting? I see all the time on Facebook in the different buy and sell groups and the trading groups, things like the Metal Jesus group or Console Purist, people posting things that they've picked up, they've got great deals, and they're kind of flexing about I found this $200 game for $2.99 at Goodwill or something. And then the comments are just, dozens of comments of, man, I wish I could get a deal like that. My Goodwill has nothing. My Goodwill takes all the good games and puts them in the cabinet for ridiculous prices. Well, let me tell you how these guys are doing it. First things first, if collecting games is a priority to you, or indeed collecting anything, not just games, but if collecting games is a priority to you, you need to treat your hobby at least like a part-time job. You have to put some hours into your hobby. You can't just play the games. If you want to build a collection, here's how you do it. If you want to find the deals like these guys posting pickups every day in the Facebook groups or on YouTube, you've got to put in the legwork. First and most important, assuming you have a game store in your town or close to where you live, you need to develop a relationship with a brick and mortar retro game store. Hopefully if you can, or even a GameStop or EB Games. There are often fantastic deals and incredible networking opportunities that can be found at a retro game store. Not only do you have the opportunity to meet other customers who are coming and going and maybe commenting on the things that you're buying, creating relationships with other collectors in your area that you can develop for trade opportunities and things of that nature. But often the video game store, if they get to know you and know the sorts of things that you like, they will often, when they get things into the store, set something aside for you, give you a phone call, say, hey, I know you're interested in Atlas games. I just got 3 or 4 really good ones in. Come on down and take a look. And often if you buy 3 or 4 games all at once, they will give you a discount, especially for that kind of loyalty, for coming in and responding to a phone call and buying the things that they set aside for you. Now, if you tell the game store repeatedly that you're looking for XYZ game, and then they actually find it for you, call you in, and you don't buy it, that's not necessarily the kind of relationship that you want to foster. And sometimes at a game store, you do have to pay a little bit more than maybe you want to for an item, but the benefits down the road in terms of generating a relationship with that store owner and developing a relationship with the patronage at the store is really invaluable in terms of building a network amongst collectors in your local area that you can profit from in the long run. There's so much complaining online these days about places like thrift stores and pawn shops taking all the good games and putting ridiculous prices on them, putting them behind glass. But the fact is, the deals do remain. They're there, but you have to go early and you have to go often. I'm not telling you how to collect, but if you want the deals, you have to work for them. So take thrift stores, for example. There's a lot of controversy about whether you can still get good deals at thrift stores. Let me tell you, you can. The deals are out there, but you have to cover a lot of ground. You can't just go to one thrift store once every 2 or 3 weeks and expect to get the deals. You need to go over and over and over again because they're constantly bringing out new merchandise and people are in there buying it. So you have to show up early in the day and you have to show up at least once a week. A little bit of my rhythm, at least before all this COVID stuff, I would go either, because I work in the evenings, I would go to some kind of place where I could potentially find something every day before work. Whether that was a game store, a comic book store, a thrift store, a pawn shop, I would just stop in somewhere every day before work. Check it out, kind of make my rounds of my local neighborhood. From Monday to Friday, I would check out 5 or 6 different stores between the 5 or 6 days, and then on the weekend I would go to 3 or 4 or 5 places on my day off that I hadn't gone to. Sometimes I would travel to another city or another neighborhood. Don't be afraid to get a coffee and go on a half an hour or a 45-minute road trip, because that's where you're going to find the deals in the places that you haven't dug up over and over and over again. The deals are out there, but you've got to cover the ground. You've got to do the legwork, and you've got to understand that, yes, they are going to put the games that they know are collectible behind glass, but a lot of times they don't know what they're looking at. I picked up a copy at Value Village, which is kind of the Canadian version of Goodwill. We have Goodwills here as well. At Value Village, I picked up a copy of Conquer Live and Reloaded for the Xbox, which is a pretty collectible game. It sells pretty regularly for about $50, at least up here in Canada in our currency. So, how much would you expect that I would pay for a $50 game? Well, I got it for $2.99. And, that's not me flexing. That's me saying I was at the right place at the right time. The shelf was absolutely full of garbage sports titles and things that most people don't want when they're out there hunting. But there was this one game in the corner that I just happened to spy, and it was Conquer Live and Reloaded. I open it up, it's got the manual, it's in great shape, and I picked it up for $3. That's the kind of deals people are looking for. You want to find that $50 game, that $100 game. I can tell you story after story after story about some of the amazing finds that I've found, and sometimes it's not those $200 games. It's not the Magical Chase that you find for $2 or the Panzer Dragoon Saga that you find for $2, but there are plenty of games that are worth $20 or $30 to somebody. And the trick with thrift stores and a lot of this collecting is you have to buy things that you don't necessarily want in order to have them as trade bait or to resell in order to make money to fund the games that you do want. So a lot of times when you go to a thrift store and you see a whole bunch of games you don't want, you've got to look on that shelf and see if there are games that are worth $20 or $30 that you could trade into a GameStop, or that you could sell to a friend, or sell online, or trade with another collector. There's a lot of times when you might pick up something like a Call of Duty game, or Darksiders game, or, something like that that's worth 10 or 15 or $20. If you can pick it up for $1 or $2, you might as well pick it up, because that's how you end up really getting the deals and having the hobby try to pay for itself a little bit. Yard sales, same thing. You've got to go early. You can't roll into a yard sale at noon and expect all the good stuff to still be there. You got to get up at the crack of dawn. You got to be out at those yard sales at 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning. And you've got to go to more than 3 or 4 yard sales. A lot of people will come online on a Saturday into a Facebook group and say, oh, I went to, a bunch of yard sales in my area, and nothing. As usual, no video games, nothing. Well, chances are those guys only went to 3 or 4 yard sales. You got to go to 10 or 12 or 15. You've got to put in the legwork. You've got to spend 3 or 4 hours chasing after what you want. Pawn shops are often a fantastic resource for video game collecting. A lot of those games that are in the middle price categories end up getting lumped into a flat price. A lot of pawn shops sell, say, Xbox 360 games for $2 or $3, PlayStation 3 games for $2 or $3, PlayStation 2 games for $1, original Xbox games for $1. So you have to really take the time to go into these pawn shops and browse through the admittedly piles of junk. I mean, if I see another copy of NHL 12, I'm gonna scream. But you know what? There are gems hidden in there. And sometimes you're looking for things and they're in the wrong case and you never know what you're going to get. You really got to take the time to look through some of these junky piles of games, because the deals are in there. And the thing with pawn shops, they're pretty similar to thrift stores. They bring out new stock just about every day. Maybe not what you're looking for, but I have actually worked at a pawn shop and I can tell you, new stock comes in every day, and new stock goes out on the shelf every day. Sometimes some really incredible stuff slips through the cracks, and they don't really either know what it's worth, or they don't care to look because they consider things like DVDs and video games to just be bulk. They just throw it out on the shelf for $3 a piece and don't really pay much attention to it unless it's something brand new like a Switch game or a PS4 game. They may premium price those, but a lot of the older stuff, I've found Atari games, I've found original Nintendo games. If you watched my last pickups video, you would have seen I bought Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 1 and 2 for the NES for $5 a piece at a pawn shop. The deals are out there. The biggest thing that you can really do, and especially now coming into spring cleaning season here with all this COVID especially, people are clearing the clutter out of their houses like crazy, and as soon as everybody's free to start going back to these thrift stores and donating, you're going to see a pile of stuff. Right now it's all online. Places like Facebook Marketplace or local Facebook buy and sell groups, Craigslist, Kijiji, OfferUp. There are so many websites out there for people to get rid of stuff. And what you will find, if you take the time to really sit down and filter through all of the different ads, you're going to find what could only be described as the kind of soccer mom getting rid of her kids' clutter that they've grown out of or something. I can't tell you how many times I've gone 20 minutes across the city to pick up a bundle or a lot. I picked up a Nintendo 2DS and 12 games, all complete in box with manuals for $60. Great price. And you know what? 2 or 3 of those games paid for it. Even if I didn't want the other games, 2 or 3 of those games paid for the $60. The rest of those games I can either add to my collection or I can trade or sell to buy more games that I do want. So buying in lots is really a great way to save money. Another lot I picked up not too long ago was I bought a Nintendo Wii Mini. It came with 2 controllers, including the red controller that you can pretty much only get with the red Wii, and a couple of games. One was a Trauma Center game by Atlas, which was something I wanted for my collection. The other one I think was Mario Kart Wii or something, which I already had a couple copies of. But you know what? Mario Kart games and anything Mario, you can trade that or sell that. I just took it down to the local game store and sold it for like 15-20 bucks. So you buy a lot, you take what you want, and you get rid of the rest. You take all this stuff that you've collected that you don't really want, you trade it into your local game store, and that's what I said, developing a relationship with the game store. The one that I deal with, Final Boss in Edmonton, I take stuff, trade it in, get store credit, and then use that store credit for the bigger items that I can't find or that I can't necessarily afford, maybe a higher end game, or put it towards a system or something like that. The other thing you've got to really do is educate yourself about collectibles other than video games. There are so many collectibles out there, and a lot of them are emerging markets. The video game market is starting to mature to the point where just about everybody knows that there are video game collectors out there. And that's when the prices start to go up at all these little places like thrift stores and pawn shops and stuff like that. But if you educate yourself about collectibles, there are new collectibles markets emerging all the time, like VHS movies, for example, and audio cassette tapes. They're becoming collectible again. People are starting to pick them up like crazy. So if you are in one of these stores anyway, and you happen to see a cassette tape of Metallica or Led Zeppelin for 50 cents, grab it up. Because, yeah, you're going to fill your house full of junk. But the thing is, you're going to be able to flip that thing to somebody who wants it real easy. And that 50 cent or $1 Metallica tape is going to be what's nostalgic to somebody else. And they're going to pay you $5 or $10 or $15 for that cassette tape that nobody else wants. So educate yourself about the collectibles market, whether it's, as I say, VHS or audio cassettes, whether it's audio books, whether it's art, whether it's comic books. There are so many different things that people collect. And if you educate yourself, you can get some really amazing deals on the things that they don't know what it's worth. Anyways, guys, thanks for sticking around to the end of the video. I hope some of these tips help you out a little bit. Please remember, I'm not trying to tell anybody how to collect. This is just how I manage to get the deals that I get. It's by persistence. It's by patience. It's by not buying that $100 game when you see it brand new on the shelf, but waiting for that deal to come along. It's by buying the deals when you see them and using them as trade bait or trading them into a store to get store credit. It's about doing the legwork to go to a pawn shop today and a thrift store tomorrow and a game store the day after that and maybe 3 or 4 places the day after that because it's your day off. Flea markets in the summer, whatever you can do, church bazaars. You've got to put in the legwork and you've got to put in the research to find out where to go, because sometimes you'll miss out on incredible opportunities just because you didn't know what was happening. Anyways, guys, if you like this video, give me a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, hit that notification bell so that you'll be notified every time I put up a new video. Stay classy, guys. Thanks a lot.